I think that it's especially fitting for Steve to be honored with an award with Senator Muskie's name on it. They have lots of things in common in terms of their focus on patient, persistent persuasion. But there's nobody just like Steve. Steve has held a number of public offices. He was Attorney General of the state, member of the House. He was the founding president of the Northeast Legislative Association on Prescription Drug Prices. He went on to head the Maine Community Foundation. He was the chairman of the Baxter State Park Authority. The thing that ties all of those jobs together is the focus on people.
Every aspect of his professional life has enabled him to work with a different group in a different way to move forward the things that he cares so deeply about.
He is able to relate to people in all sorts of different ways. It's not just as a CEO or a former attorney general, it's also as a guy who grew up on a farm, and a guy who is trying to restore a truck, and a guy who is really concerned about little kids and whether they're prepared to go to kindergarten. Like, he brings everything to the table all the time.
Steve's roots are humble. That's a big part of who not only Steve is, but how he goes about doing his business. So it's almost egoless. And that yields a lot of good results. When people can put aside their ego and just say, what do we need to do to get the job done?
When I think of Steve, the first word that comes to mind is integrity. But he's also a man of great passion and compassion, which makes him a wonderful public servant.
It grated on him when public officials were cheerleaders for business. And he said, Maine doesn't need a cheerleader for business. Maine needs a quarterback for the people. No matter what the office was that Steve held, he tried to be a quarterback for the people.
He has that really clear sense of justice and fairness that drives him, and then he recognizes that he has a lot of privilege and that he should use it as much as possible. When he first became CEO at the Maine Community Foundation, he came on board with a commitment to getting the foundation to focus on racial equity. He said he wanted to have a statewide summit focused on white privilege, and I thought, this is dead in the water. Steve was absolutely adamant. I could not change his mind, and he put in as much time as needed to make sure that room was filled. We had over 600 people attend that event, and so it was an enormous success.
There was a time when Maine judges could not prohibit possession of firearms in a temporary protection from abuse order, and the data showed clearly that that was the most dangerous time for any victim of domestic violence, and the most important time for firearms and dangerous weapons to be removed. The effort to give judges that power was tied up in important Second Amendment issues, and the common ground just had not been identified. I think that by the time Steve was through, the bill had 100 sponsors. Steve and Steve alone put together a coalition that made it possible for that to become law, and it's keeping Maine people safer every day.
If you've ever gotten a call from Steve, you know that he is incredibly persistent. I don't think that he stops because he's tired. He stops when he thinks he's got the job done, and I think most of us could learn from that.
I was the CEO of Gould Health Systems, and I got a call from the governor's office at the time, and somebody I know would like to appoint you to the Business Roundtable on Early Childhood Investments. I said, you've called the wrong person. Well, then I learned that Steve Rowe had suggested my name. I knew how passionate he was about early childhood investments and had a conversation with Steve. And then it became an easy yes.
He would, as Attorney General, walk around with a rubber brain, and he would be glad to tell anybody who would listen how important it is to invest in this brain when a child is first born. Because with 95% of the brain developing before the age of 5, if you wait till kindergarten, it's too late.
He took particular care, as Speaker of the House, for example, to work late, but also to recognize that a lot of people were working late, and to walk around the building into the inner offices and just catch people's attention and let them know that they were appreciated, that he knew that they were there.
Being able to advocate in his intense but humble way and make that kind of a difference is a legacy that not many politicians can claim.
I can imagine when he sees these videos, he's going to be cringing because he is so modest, but this is an uncomfortable moment that he deserves to get.
He's a true public servant, has a servant's heart and servant's hands that he has employed in the service of Maine people his entire life.
This is really a wonderful tribute to a person who has dedicated his adult life to improving the state of Maine.
To be as impactful an advocate as Steve Rowe is and has been, and you just plain have to have the courage to say, I'm not going to sit on the sidelines. I'm going to step forward and make a difference, to use whatever stature I have, whatever podium I have, whatever influence I have for the greater good.